Good evening. The Department of Architecture and Design at AUB is extremely honored to host Rafael Moneo for this lecture about his recent works. Rafael Moneo obtained his architectural degree in 1961 from the Escuela Técnica Superior of Madrid. In 1970, he won a teaching chair in architectural theory at the Escuela Técnica Superior of Barcelona, where he taught until 1980, when he became chaired professor of composition at the school in Madrid. In 1985, he was appointed chairman of the architecture department of the Harvard University Graduate School of Design, a position he held until 1990. In 1991, he was named Josep Luis Sert Professor of Architecture at Harvard, where he continues to teach during the spring term of each year. Rafael Moneo combines his professional activity as an architect with that as lecturer, critic, and theoretician. His writings have been published in numerous professional magazines. In 2005, Moneo published his book, Theoretical Anxiety and Design Strategies in the Work of 8 Contemporary Architects, which has been translated to many languages. Notable among Rafael Moneo's works in Spain are the National Museum of Roman Art, the Atocha Railway Station, the Lila on the Diagonal Avenue in Barcelona in collaboration with Manuel de Sola Morales, and the Pilar and Juan Miró Foundation in Palma de Mallorca, the Cursal Auditorium and Congress Center in San Sebastián, and the annex for the Town Hall of Murcia. Outside of Spain, notable works include the Davis Museum and Cultural Center for Wellesley College, the Museums of Modern Art and Architecture in Stockholm, Our Lady of the Angels Cathedral in Los Angeles, and the extension to the Prado Museum in Madrid. Works finished in the last year include the Labs for Interface and Engineering for Harvard University, the Museum of the Roman Theater in Cartagena, a library for the University of Deusto in Bilbao, the Chase Student Center for the Rhode Island School of Design, and the Novartis Laboratory in Basel, Switzerland. Closer to us, Rafael Moneo is the designer of the souks of Beirut that will be opened soon. In 1996, Rafael Moneo was awarded the Pritzker Prize in Architecture. As all of you know, it's the most prestigious award for architecture. In 2003, the Royal Gold Medal of the Royal Institute of British Architects. Among other prizes and distinctions are the Gold Medal for Achievement in the Fine Arts by the Spanish government, 1992, the Gold Medal of the French Academy of Architecture, and the Gold Medal of the International Union of Architects. He has also been honored as Doctor Honoris Causa by the Catholic University of Leuven in Belgium, the Royal Institute of Technology of Stockholm, and the École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne. We have also with us Angus Gavin, the head of the Urban Development Division at Solidaire. Angus Gavin has been involved in the Beirut Central District project from its onset and is recently part of the extensive expansion that Solidaire is witnessing overseas. He would like to say a few words about Rafael Moneo and the Souks of Beirut project, all the more since this will not be part of Moneo's presentation, and he promised to do a presentation later about it. Please welcome Angus Gavin and later Moneo.
Pritzker Prize winner and Joseph Louis Sert Professor of Architecture at Harvard, Rafael Moneo is at the apex of strong connections between Harvard, Beirut, and Solidaire. You run into so many Harvard graduates here. My impression is that the Harvard Club of Beirut is actually larger than the Harvard Club of London. In spite of his long-standing connection, it took some persuasion to encourage Rafael to make his first trip here to consider the challenges of reconstructing the souks. He thought Beirut was a dangerous place. Of course, he was right. But once you come here, the place seems to exert its spell and fascination, and the dangers seem magically to recede. Many other talented international architects have followed his lead here, with us on projects in the downtown over the past 10 days, have been Christian de Posampark, Richard Rogers, Rafael Vignoli, and Herzog and de Meuron. Although Rafael is here mainly for the souks, he is also now working on a new project in the downtown with Sami Karala. Too early to discuss. Meanwhile, the Beirut souks is very close to completion, soon to be opening. Rafael will not present it today, but has promised to do so later, as we just heard, when it is open and bustling with people. I think the souks is such an important project, the city district, really, for Beirut, that I want to give you my 1-minute personal views of it by way of an introduction to Rafael. And also sincere thanks for what he has done here. To me, the souks is an extraordinary work of architectural and spatial art, carried down into painstaking detail, responding to and accommodating layers of history on the site. I cannot think of any other architectural project in the world for what is essentially a commercial shopping district that comes close. My personal belief is that the Moneo souks will trigger a new renaissance of Beirut as the city finds its place in the post-global recession era. To my mind, Rafael is a master of responding to urban context, accommodating the past and creating place in the Mediterranean tradition, as opposed to creating standalone object buildings. I find these qualities in much of his work. Some of my favorites are the Museum of Roman Art in Merida, the Congress Center in San Sebastian, the Murcia Town Hall, and the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Angels in LA. I don't entirely know what Rafael is going to show now of his recent buildings, but like you all, I'm looking forward to it. Please welcome Rafael Moneo.
Well, thank you very much, George and Angus, for your kind and generous words. And then I will start promising you to make so careful presentation as possible of the souks. I had been traveling to this city almost 3-4 times every year during the last 10 years, even more than 10 years. Somebody remind me that I lectured here in 1997. I was afraid and astonished how rapidly the time goes away. And yet that gives to me also some relief, because when you are attached to a building so much time that I has been to the souks, I realize, and you are stand on the things and trying to solve the problems you were looking for, that gives you some, confirm your, let's say, commitment with the single project. To be able to stand for the project during those, let's say, only 10 years means that the basis on which the project was born deserved to be done. Having said that, I would like to tell you that all the 5 projects that you will see today, and I will try to do that so rapidly as possible, are tied by and are relied by, let's say, something that could be said in the simplest way, or could be defined as the simplest way as difficulty. Any of those problems that you will see today, they are going to be quite different, and yet they are connected, and the hidden thread joins all them, and is that as architecture, as a buildings, They are trying to solve and to answer a very specific and, let's say, hard question that has been posed in architectural terms. So did the Souks as well. And indeed, I am more and more taken myself for this kind of work. And I would say that the difficulties, instead of just, let's say, being seen as something to be overcome, becomes, let's say, the stimulus and becomes the help that the architect has to go on with his or her own work. Let's start then with these 5 projects. The first one is going to be a library in Bilbao for the oldest university in the País Basque, from the Jesuits, Deusto. And here the difficulty relies in, let's say, in something more subtle and even harder. That is the fact that this work is going to grow up under the shadow of the Guggenheim. And the Guggenheim has been such an important building for Bilbao that indeed to do something close to it, and for better or worse, it has happened to me to be till now the closest building to it, forces the architect to indeed a strong reflection, because the Guggenheim became the new, let's say, the new origin from where the city started to think itself again, and it has become so much a symbol of a much more brilliant future than it was to this very important industrial city, that to keep the integrity and to dare to raise up the building close to it was indeed a very daring proposal. Here, the old university in the other side of the river, and then again another more, and here the relationship between both buildings. No doubt that I was quite aware that as much as I ought to pay the tribute of respect that the Guggenheim and the Getty's work deserves, I should do something that could stand for even offering an alternative solution to what the Guggenheim does. The Guggenheim is a building, exploiting building. Its energy comes from the interior. Our building is going to be much more contained. It can be said that is defined by the wrapping enclosure, by the cladding, and yet by recognizing the value of volumetric architecture, I would like to express my respect to this opaque and yet quite wonderfully treated collection of surfaces that the Guggenheim is. And then our building, and just discovering the play, the sooner the better. What we did is this wrapping of this solid that is going to be glass and translucent instead of opaque and waiting for the light as the Guggenheim is. We opened and we cut the corners in such a way that the background of the views inside our buildings are the Guggenheim, that became an appropriate architecture joined into ours. You see there this contrast. As much as the Guggenheim becomes darker at night, ours becomes lighter, the way it used to happen in San Sebastian. And this drawing of the site plan shows you quite clearly how important for the university this jumping on in the other side of the river was. Here, all this side of the river, used to be the shipyards and the most all that the Bando Ibarra used to be where the ships ended up, and then the industry was loading and unloading goods and steel and shipyards and so on. All that became obsolete in the 50s and 60s, and the city has done such a tremendous effort. And the Guggenheim is the beginning of this new Bilbao, and yet, beside that, this it has been planned, all this urban renewal operation between the two bridges, Deustop and La Salve, and then our building is there waiting the construction of a tower by Cesar Pelli, and another close-by building of the same size and scale as ours by Cesar Vieira. Something else has been built here by Isusakian, by Stern, and so on. But in the meanwhile, our building remained, as I said, just enjoying this solitude with the Gary building, enjoying, as I said, the being, taking or appropriating its image from the interior of our building throughout those cuts. Our building, as I said, just being aware of this, let's say, respect, and yet standing on something quite different enhances what the perimeter is going to be, and yet those high windows end up with the view of the Guggenheim. I wonder whether you are able to see that, but once that you enter in the reading rooms of this building, you have the Guggenheim, that's something that belongs to you, that can or ought to be seen as the city where you are. That is the background and the end of your views into there. And then another image of those reading rooms that have this double height, very spacious, everything addressing toward the Guggenheim, even either the concrete structure or the lights with the lamps, or the reading and studying tables there, and therefore the respect is present from the very geometrical beginnings of the building. You see there, those cuts of those corners brings you also into seeing that from the building, the old university as well, again, and still the Guggenheim. And this library is a university library that has a very important, let's say, collection of books, almost 1 million books, that are most of them kept in the basement of the building, but beside that, it is books are surrounding these reading rooms, these stucco reading rooms that are connected throughout here, one of the storage of books around the reading rooms, and one of the other corners, and all those reading rooms are connected with the stair that allows the indifference with which it has been planned, that allowed to be taken either from one side or another, allows people to move vertically throughout the stair, and then seeing and enjoying the other fellows reading as well, in a way that even though we are stocking 4 reading rooms, one above other, with the 2 height each of them, and surrounded by those storage of books, just 1 floor each one of them. But then the stair was allowing you to move freely, and then the sharing, as I said, the site and the building with all the others. The stair joining and connecting. We are now in the access floor. The access floor. We are in the semi-barrier floor that connects and relates the building with the projected garden. It's still unfinished. Here it happens to be the cafeteria and all the social services, still with the Guggenheim at the very end. And here this sunken courtyard that, as I said, makes the connection between the building and the garden. That the contrast between the rather freely structured volumes of the Guggenheim and this translucent surface for which we have designed this special glass block that enhances the verticality of the mass, still the old and the new university, the Guggenheim and ourselves. And here the collection of drawings that shows how, as I said, and coming back, that could be seen almost like the key plan for understanding, as I said, how the geometry keeps and expresses this respect for the Guggenheim from the very beginning. Tables, lamps, structure, everything is diagonal, everything is energized by the diagonal orientation, but this diagonal orientation is let's say, reinforced and enhanced by the fact that you have this L-shaped nucleus. If Gehry is enjoying, just as I said, exploiting those masses, here we are making and working with another kind of, let's say, idea of how architecture works. We are accepting the present established by the perimeter, and the perimeter of the building is activated by the cuts, and then and later this orientation taken or given by the Guggenheim is reinforced by this L-shaped structure that solves all the problems related with fire stairs and restrooms and space for librarians and small booths for more advanced students, and then the seminar rooms and so on. And you have now, I was talking of this double height space. That means that in the other level it will happen that multiplying those collective spaces for working together. And you see there how these drawings show this attempt to be able to define the architecture structure of a building with sorry, with a more, let's say, restricted mechanism that in this case can be seen almost as this attempt to give orientation and to define that with both the structure and this clear definition of the nucleus, that the building works instead of just exploiting, accepting the contention established by the urban planner, and yet being able of, you want myself to be closer to that? Well, let's go on. Here, the section showing the basement with the book storage, and then the sunken courtyard that I was talking about, and the double height of the reading rooms, and the service books storage, and so on. And here a couple more of drawings that insist on the same direction, and here the building at night, and here again. As I said, we are going to see now another kind of difficulty. Thank you. Another kind of, let's say, architectural problems that was posed by the Guggenheim. The Guggenheim, to be free of this shadow and yet being able of both making and different and even an opposite statement and yet being respectful to it, what I would like the library to have done. Now we are in a small academic building in the United States, in Providence. Providence is, as you know, the headquarters of a couple of very respected academic institutions, one Brown University, the other one Rhode Island School of Design. Here, the photograph of the beginning of 20th century. Keep in mind the building like that is where we are going to act. Here, we are, let me see. In this moment, the building I showed you was that. That is a memorial church, a church that has been desacralized recently. And then above that, on benefit, most of the buildings belongs to Brown, and instead many other buildings around Main Street, this being Main Street, the other one being benefit, that belong to Rhode Island, to RISD. Here again, you see there, memorial building again is there with the spires had been trunked and chopped. Then the old building, and this, well, that is an image of Steinberg, just wanting to say how much Providence could be seen as the quintessence of the American city. Once that the building was torn down, the pediment of the old memorial church take over and gave such a severe spirit to all this place, in spite of being used by such a mundane function that it is parking. You see there, this very much crowded and let's say tight space. The space, pay attention to the space between the two buildings, because that is going to be at the end crucial for understanding what we wanted to do. The building of the site is the Rhode Island School of Design. Rhode Island School of Design. Thank you. Rhode Island School of Design Museum. Here again, the other side, this alley filled up with all those 5 stairs, and still another building from RISD, college building. And here you see the site with the sorry, these pointers are, I wonder whether, because for me it's very costly to see the spot, I wondered whether for you it would be even harder than, but here is the site, and that has this open space facing the river. Here well, it could be said something about this model, very primary and very simple model, that would allow to me to say something about which what has happened with this building, because this is a building that is very much dictated by contingencies, calling contingencies to find out how to deal with all the nuances and with all the different conditions that had been established by the city as a whole, and how our building, and the very first thing to be said about that is that we would like the building, by respecting the alignment of Main Street, being able to take over the entire block and then making some kind of compound where I will dare to say that the old bank receives some protection by the fact that something has been built besides it. The same could be said with the college building. Obviously, it would be the time to say something perhaps about the choice of the materials, or about something like why coming up with those whitish pear-like conditions of the glass that somehow helps to lift together the new building to the old lighted marble-like structure of the bank. Here again a close-up, and again the greatest attention to all those slots and to all these let's say pilasters of the bank, reinforced by the open slot there, as well as the differences here. The differences between the two buildings is very much established by the horizontal, as well as the opening is still reinforcing this vertical condition that keeps this medieval flavor that still has the city like Providence. Here again one more image, and you could look at the top of the building with the windows and the mitoyen wall, and then allowing this mitoyen wall to be drawn the pediment with such a strength, and not doubt that, as I said, that this care and this attention with which the alignment has been kept helps the building to be installed and to be included in the urban media. I would like to say that no matter we are keeping the alignment of Main Street, we are twisting slightly the glass facade for making more open and more appealing the big space of the plaza. No doubt also that we always wanted to keep the integrity of Memorial, this eerie and awkward architectural presence. And I would like throughout all these drawings to show you how the building is very much configured, answering those very specific questions in whatever level and in whatever surroundings. In this case, you go into the lobby. From the lobby, you are able to go directly into the temporary exhibition room for the students of Rhode, but taking the mechanical stairs, you go up directly into the access to the museum. The building is a very, let's say, as much as the building is very sensible to all those variances and all those nuances of the urban setting, the program of the building keeps this complexity in spite of the size, and that the building ought to provide access to the museum, but ought to have also some studio for the students and some facilities as the cabinet of drawing for the museum, and some the public the space, more public spaces for the students above. In a way, is this let's say this attempt to serve both the program and decide what establishes what the museum is. If in a project like the library, we were able to speak about a nucleus that from where that establishes the true structure of the building, I will dare to say that here it is working on the perimeter, and it is the definition of the perimeter what counts. The definition of the perimeters that I said pays attention to the encounter with the bank building, but immediately after goes with the front, the stairs, and then with the other stairs, and then in the back with the auditorium. I like to see this building very much as just being modeled just from the outdoors, from the perimeters, as I said. And you see here the space of the lobby, very open, informal, American institution atmosphere. We are now in the level of the students' temporary exhibition room. The building goes, jumps on, merging with the front or the rear facade of the rear facade of the rear facade of the memorial building, with this roof space, open space there that allowed to go into the two alleys, because the building is very much about the connection between main and benefit. It's very much about just working with the interstitial spaces than with the indoor spaces as well. From there, the students have this access at this independent entrance that allows the building, as I said, to be seen and to serve to different constituencies. We see there this temporary exhibition room, the temporary exhibition room for the museum, larger and a bit simpler than the other. You go on. You go on from here, the stair, you cross this sort of bridge above the alleys, and then, as I said, I would like the building to be seen very much designed throughout this connection with the buildings in the beside it, the temporary exhibition room. Here, the section throughout one of those alleys, the auditorium, and then the space between both buildings, paying the respect that, in our view, deserved so much the memorial building, the rear facade. This interlocking connection between the two volumes, the brick that connects and establishes the direct relationship with the traditional buildings, and the new one that, as I said, is serving to lift together the back building, the alley that has been liberated, and this interstitial space that, in my view, is so important for defining the building as the interior itself. The alley, the space now under from where the students go into the temporary exhibition room, and then the other alley, the other side of the building, here going up to benefit, here going up to benefit but from the other side. The building has, I wouldn't say instability, but the building in a way more than a building ought to be seen, and that is something that is going to happen with some of the other buildings that you will see today. The building works trying to make, trying to weld and to put together all the existing buildings in a way. I wouldn't like the building to be seen, and I guess that it can be seen independently as an object. Instead, it enlarges the influence and forces to think about the work we did with this building as something that benefits many other buildings as well. The section there, that you see, it lacks the court and it leaves from the perimeter. Here we are in the upper floors, where the perimeter is very much transformed by creating this weight of connection throughout those corridors that are in themselves defined in such a way that could be seen as public spaces. In a way, the public space of this tiny building are the corridors, and as such ought to be seen. There you see the storage for the drawing collections and the rooms for scholars working and for cleaning and restoring the old drawings. And here, again, the building enjoys the fact that it lives together with the city itself. You are always, and you have always present the city in such a way that, as I said, you could think in the building not an isolated event, and instead as a piece of the city that is broader than a building. The upper floor with the studios for the students, and I will not repeat what I said talking about the corridors. Again, the atmosphere that makes the city present. We are seeing now the building from the other side of the river throughout this open space. A close-up, a view from Maine, a closer view where everything could be seen as an accident. In a way, this attempt to be very alert to whatever is happening architecturally speaking around you as a way of dealing with the project. Again, seeing the building in the other side and seeing how it lives together with all the others. Now, if this building wants, or this building wanted, or has wanted to pay attention to the site in terms of, by answering, being able to install a complex program, we are going to see here almost the same issue, but in a larger and much more daring in scale. It is a building for the most updated physics department and physics labs in Harvard University. And the very first thing is to tell you something about the campus. Harvard is a special campus, so different from many others, or some so different from those that became canonical, as we will see in talking about Columbia, with McKim, Mead and White, these agora-like spaces that came after, at the end of 19th century. And instead here we see a much more casual, unpredictable growing, where each building is helping to think about what will happen in the next movement. And I would like you to see the growing of the university in such a way. And therefore, we are going to do something for those of you that know Harvard. You see here at Harvard, before it was built, the Science Center that was built by Jose Luis Sert, and that in a way became, or tried to be, the wedge and the angled stone connecting the science, the science district with the humanistic that could be seen as a structure around the yard. And then you see there what how the conditions were, the science center into there, Oxford Street that moves this way, and then the Peabody over there, and then all the physics departments into there, the Lita Howard, that is one of the law school libraries into there. And the idea, I like to show you this photograph because it reflects and it says more clearly than anything else what I believe to be the essence of the campus, the essence of the campus being that way of intercrossing paths in a way that allow the students to move from one side to the other without this, let's say, a straightforward line. Isn't that there are all those crossing paths what speaks about this interdisciplinarity, about this very complex mental structure of a university like Harvard. And here our site, and then I was asked to build this lab that ought to convey a clean room that, as I said, is the most updated and more complicated piece in a most updated physics discipline nowadays. Here you have a rather, let's say, old or not so distinguished building that is the McKay building, the third building into here, and we were asked to do something all around into there, and then what I tried to do, and after discussing with the people of the university which was the most adequate and appropriate site, we ended up thinking that working on here in this rare courtyard of the Science Center will help and to keep would keep the university free of conflicts with the city of Cambridge. Instead, had we been chosen to build up there in those open lawns in front of Peabody, we always would enter with discussing with the city, even though the land belongs to the university, but there are always a question between both institutions, and therefore we decided to build up the clean room into the courtyard, and by so doing enhancing this building and taking, let's say, going on with something like a small tower that will hold the labs and would be able to connect with all the other old labs into there. To do something with that, what you are going to see now is difficult to be thought as a single, let's say, self-standing object. Instead, as it has happened with Risley, it tries to transcend and to see the construction of a building as something that inevitable goes up and goes above the single building and affects and has an impact almost everywhere around. And therefore, I would like to see at this project almost considering that it establishes a new gate, or it encloses this courtyard, or it enhances the old existing McKay lab. This probably I ought to tell you that we ended up as the latest architects in the short list here: Norman Foster, Herzog and de Meuron and myself. No doubt that the university like Harvard would be able to hire either one of those I mentioned. Instead, that at the end, probably they thought that I would be able to, let's say, to deal with the true problem there, that was to find out the site and the ground where it doesn't exist, and that I would pay more attention to all those extremely problematic circumstances and conditions in which we were, than either Norman Foster or Herzog and de Meuron. And I like to believe that still architects are demanded and are asked to solve problems that overcome, let's say, the iconographic invention or the brilliance of an unexpected building, and instead that from time to time institutions want and ask architects to solve the problem that only with the knowledge that architecture as discipline has is able to end up solving the people's problem. Therefore, forget about the sketches there. But that means that probably the sketches want to say that probably some insightful thought about what to do comes together with all the knowledge and all, let's say, the attention you have paid to the conditions and the program. In this case, I thought from the beginning that we should keep the paths, and we should even enhance those paths. This CERT building being one of those 60s buildings that were longing for making almost like a small city inside the building itself, and then ending up with a rather less clear rear facade addressing the courtyard. I very much wanted our building to be this double-faced building, able to provide, as I said, both both enhancing the percourse already established, and yet being able to become almost something like a new gate to the campus. And therefore, I decided to put the clean room below ground, and then opening something like that is a moat, and then this moat enhances the old Mackay building that, in spite of being an undistinguished architectural speaking building, was very much wanted by the physics, and then coming into here with this very complex structure that helps to enter on light into the basement that are below, as well as allow chimneys to go up, as well as creates this very synthetic and powerful architectural speaking space that allows people to move freely in the campus. Here, a view of the model that shows you clearly how the moat works, allowing and merging the new building with the old one, and then the passage through with this architectural leitmotif that sends you back into even the work of a sculptor like Richard Serra. And then here, this very complex head, where our building, that is a rather substantive building, something like 21,000 square meters, and equipped with the most expensive mechanisms, doesn't have another entrance but that of the old Mackay, as well as is connected above with some bridges over. Here another view of the model going on, the connection, and here you see there is a moment when difficult to say whether we have added something, or that could be seen as an isolated tower. Just on the contrary, the building merges, as I said, and merges under very, let's say, powerful building conditions. You have below all the scanners and all the microscopes that are working without any vibration, without dust, without light, without magnetic fields. That means that what you are seeing there has required such a considerable effort. The clean room, actually, the clean room itself is just that, no more than that. The students are able to come here to see what the teachers and the colleagues are doing, and above that, the clean room is wrapped for all the ducts that are overseen and controlled from this catwalk above. That here you are seeing an image of the moat, an image of the clean room and the basement with all this complexity. The corridor from where you have offices for professors as well as those large windows allowing the students to look at, and then the moat that connects and enhances the old existing building. The ducts and the legs that are holding the building allow all the ducts to go up above. The mass of the volume has been reduced with this gray glass wrapped around by this pear-like glass. The moat from Oxford Street, the building, as I said, merges there in such a way that you don't know which is which. The entrance happens to be from there, the connection there. Here, the close-up of how it works. We put the cafeteria there, trying to promote the social contact among the scientists. This passage through those light wells, getting light and entering light into the basements that are concrete. And that the scale, that's almost 6.5 meters height. Those legs that are holding the ducts as well as the light. Then all the architectural statement remains in this synthetic way on the ground. And then we are coming to another building for another American institution, Columbia University. It's quite the different problem that this one. In a way, as I said here, we like to see the building opening the gate to the next one. In this case, it was much more about ending up and completing the McKean Mid and White building, or the McKean Mid and White scheme. You see there, I wonder, is there the president of the university is there? We are here 120 on Broadway, and then many of you will remind how the university is above a kind of plinth that reaches almost 10 meters in this corner, and taking advantage of that, people built up a gymnasium here, and it was there, this last piece of land still available in the campus, where the new also a lab for physics, chemistry, and biology ought to be built. Here you see there where it's going to happen. And from the very beginning, we thought that we should keep the McKim mid and weight structure, but instead of coming into this much more messy, changing the dimension of the base that the McKim mid and weight established, that we should keep that so strictly as possible, and therefore our attempt was to complete the McKim mid and weight scheme. In this site, it happens to be some other projects before ours, one of them by the late James Stirling, who tried to build up above the gymnasium, building up this the diagonal trash that holds on the building that you are seeing there. And this is our building now, already under construction. Here you see how we needed to do something about that, about this gymnasium. No doubt that this is one of those cases where, again, had the Americans been freer than they are concerning the political correctness, things could have been built much more easily, because I think the president was in condition of saying, let's come here with columns and we will be able to build up there. But the keeping the three basket courts was sacred, and we needed to go on about that, no matter the price and no matter the difficulties. And then, and therefore, this is going to be the new access from the north of the city, the new campus going to be built here, and then you move there, and you ought to go through here. We couldn't go with the vertical connection farther away from there, and everything ought to be solved in this corner, and so going up, and we ended up, and again, that is the plan, and you see there all the vertical connection, the access below the building that is cantilevered above 120, and then here the section of the building showing the way it was. We are now seeing the elevation of the building from the Columbia campus. That means that we ought to go with the structure from there and there, going up, and then holding the entire mass of the building with the structured facades, the facades holding entirely the building, and then keeping this corner for producing all the vertical connections, as well as establishing the joint, the connections with one of the existing buildings, with Piper building, as well as Chandler building connects in the other side. We will talk about here you see the section taken from Broadway, how we are jumping about it, and you see there a bit of the same mechanism that we tried in Bilbao. You see the labs, and every double height of the lab, you have 2 floors for teachers and students, establishing some kind of community among them, and then the connection with the Piper, and here you have the plan of the main of a library that is going to happen there. You see there, from here you have this library overseeing Broadway, library till here, and then later the labs. And there the plan of the library. From there you go up, and then you go through those stairs, mechanical stairs brings you there. Everything works the way we believe it should. You will enter diagonally here in oblique way into the campus, and then you will move into those 10 meters up from 120 that happens to be there. Here, again, the space of the library, the library, the stairs going up with some classroom and some services of the library over there. And again, that is the elevation from 120, and the section, this very big hall, allowing for seeing what is going to happen with the campus. And then we would like you to enter below the building here, and you have something like a cafe into this level, and from a cafe and the stairs, mechanical stairs going up there. But then by so doing, we hope it will work, just enhancing and let's say allowing people to enter into the presence of the university more easily. This here, the classroom that you have seen, and then the collection of labs going on. Here again under construction, you should imagine entering from here with these very monumental stairs allowing you to go up, but normally you will go through the mechanical stairs. All this diagonalization that helps to the facades to be holding the structures. There you see we are taking this photograph from Broadway. You see the very big hall that will be a monumental window allowing the campus, the Columbia campus, to be hanging on Broadway. Those very impressive trusses, building under construction. You have seen more advanced photographs than that. We are seeing that from the campus. Here the labs and the double height. And here the facade. The facade keeps strictly all the diagonals that had been established by the statical engineers, and we have cladded that in a different way, first in the plinth with the stone, then this monumental window of the library, then some solid aluminum panel pieces, then windows and horizontal louvers there, and then going up in this, the structure provides this sense of, I wouldn't say picturesqueness, but prevents the facade of being, of making the structure too authoritarian. The aluminum panels, that is the mock-up, but that is the way it will see. The aluminum panels that are also protecting with the shadows from the sun. Here, again, that is a rendering. It will be better than that, but it advances a bit of what is going to happen. The access below the building and the cafe and the stairs going up. The cafe that makes the institution closer to the people. That we are seeing the big window of the library. Now we are seeing the building from the other side, all those offices for both the students and teachers, the access, the library, the structure the way it was. Now it is a pretty much more advanced. That has been taken 3 or 4 months ago. And now we are coming with and then with this building in Cartagena. That is the last one. Is an hour or how we are? Well, this is I mean, Deusto was opened in January. That was opened in July of the last year. RISD in September, and then the American projects. Harvard was opened in 2007 also, and the Columbia building will be open in in the fall of next year. This is, it was opened July last year. And that is here again. It's a building that is difficult, and I like to see those buildings in this way. It's difficult to say where are the borders that establishes the true limited conditions of the building as an object, because in a way it stretches on in a broader space and area. Here something ought to be done around this Roman theater. That is the city of Cartagena, and that was where the theater was. I mean, you see there the old cathedral built from medieval times, from medieval age. You see the cathedral there that was shelled in the Spanish Civil War, and since then it remains without the roof. And here, below that, was this theater in a very astonished way. Nobody knew that this theater happened to be there. It happened when in the 1980s some archaeologists started to pay attention to new constructions into here, that they started to find out that. And but any written testimony, that is very curious. It's not surprising that to happen, because as you know, the Cartagineses were the foes of the Romans. The very well-known wars between Roman and Cartagineses had one of the bases there. From here, Hannibal and Asdrubal went on for crossing the Alps and so on. And when the Romans ended up with the victory, surely that they gave to the city the best that they have, and they built up this quite powerful theater that was this way in 1997-98, when they approached to me about what to be done. And they said, you should try to include and to keep the theater embedded by the city. And we ended up making that, we have revamped and palace from 19th century, late 19th century, adding this wing, and then we fill up this gap there, this kind of openness in these all these constructions above the old walls, and then we build up that and build up this garden, and ended up improving all those paths and the access to the wall into there. And then what started just being that ended up in this way. We built up this institution for studying the Roman history into here. You pick up the people there facing the one of the most important buildings of Cartagena, that is the city hall. You go down and below this street that goes up, that is this one, and then you move on throughout mechanical stairs in this terrace that is open to overview the bay, and you go down, literally down in the almost catacombs like corridors, and ended up in this point that is there, and from there is a kind of balcony that allows you to see from the side all the scene, and you ended up this visit to what can be called museum, into this latest or late room that is the theater itself. And that is what happens in those three floors. Here, the ground floor, coming through here, and a small auditorium, temporary exhibition room, the corridor that brings you there, then going through these stairs, go up, and then you ended up in the highest level, and from there you cross through all those authentic and old Roman ruins, either mosaics or some roofs that fell down and still remain the way they were, and then you go up there, and from there you see all the site with all the scene there. Now you are able to follow and to understand better what we did, and then from here going down, going throughout this main hall and underneath into there. Here we are in this old late 19th century small palace, the access to the museum itself, then the alley close by with the terrace and the remainders of the old cathedral, the courtyard that happens to be in the encounter between the old building, the old 19th century building and the new one, the temporary exhibition room, again with some remainders that are kept. We are moving below the street, and we reach into this there. It was that. And then we are entering into here, and entering into here in the street, it happens to be this window that keeps one of the most distinguished pieces found in Cartagena, that advances and anticipates what the museum does, as well as end up quite an interesting view from inside. And here we are in the ground floor, ready to go up. Models of how the theater was, columns with the dimensions they had, all those capitals and pieces are coming from the theater itself. We are in the upper floor, one more floor, and with some side lights, pieces belonging to the theater, aras, altar-like cylindric pieces, quite beautiful there. We are going up. We are going a bit more up. We are seeing and leaving behind us all this world, and we entered into this much more mysterious world. From there, that is the connection with the old cathedral, but from there you are crossing and finding all those true Roman remainders, even this mosaic. And you go through this passage, this corridor, because it still has been kept the roof of the demolished house that probably fell down with the earthquake and remains almost the same way you have seen some of them in Pompeii, all adobe walls from the Roman times. Oh my God, well, we are just reaching the theater at the end. We are seeing the theater. Perhaps one of the most, let's say, daring gestures, architectural gestures here, was to define the end of the theater that doesn't exist so clearly, established by this stone wall that goes all around and establishes a sort of balcony ending up the garden. From there you are seeing the pieces that has been kept, although that you have still a photograph reminding you of the way it was that. Here the Vitruvian way of drawing the theater that has been followed exquisitely here by the earlier the first builder of the theater. Here we are ending up and connecting with the street, the balcony above the bay. This wall that I was talking about, that has the virtue of enlarging the garden in such a way that the garden seems to embody all the beauty of the Roman theater with the city as the background. There one old house that has been kept with some corridors to allow people to look on and to watch how the archaeologists work in new excavations into there. The theater shows quite well how the people entered into their places in the old theater. They go up throughout the system of ramps and happens to be into there directly into the theater to see the Beirutis taking over the souks in the same way they were and making their use. Nothing more for today. Thank you very much.